So Bitcoin has just entered month 35 of this bull run. For Bitcoin, I know if you're in altcoins, it probably feels a little bit damp. But if history repeats, we're not that far away from the end of this cycle, essentially. Now, October and potentially November could well be the final couple of pushes we're going to get. However, we could also look at a potential fake out and it could really end on a bit of a whimper. There's still a lot of on the fence and dubious kind of analysis kicking about where top might be in or we're only just getting started. So today I'm going to map out what I'm looking for at Bitcoin, some altcoins and overall rotation. Not to mention, let's look at other parts of the market which are looking pretty good. Now, a little bit of context. We have done really well with Bitcoin, right? 35 months in, we've been up only for the majority of it. We've been very, very limited on corrections, not some horrible, brutal 40, 30% corrections. You know, it's quite rare. And that's the thing. 2013 ran a lot longer. 37 months. We're in that kind of zone where realistically Bitcoin has run a lot longer than previous cycles, which is fine. So we need to be mindful of that. But there has been a lot of chop. There has been a lot of weirdness. But when Bitcoin does get into a groove, it may be pretty interesting to see where we go. By the way, if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Thank you. Anyways, Bitcoin. What is happening? So I think 118,000, which is this level here, is very important. Whether we get there or not is another situation. We are looking relatively good. Over the last 3 days, we've had two decent looking candles so far. There's still 2 days and 15 hours to go with that one, obviously. So that's fine. But ultimately, we are going into the more bullish territory. We could still flop from here. However, reclaiming of that is very much key for us going back up to all-time highs, which we have corrected from, right? I have talked about that before. Invalidations, obviously, if we reject off that and we then create a new low from $108,000 going into $102,000, which could look like a dog's dinner, but also valid if we do that. That doesn't mean the end of cycle, by the way. That just means horrible, more brutal correction, and this is not the local bottom. But I fundamentally believe that this is not the local top, but that is my personal thoughts on it. Okay, so let's keep it simple. But we need to be patient. I think too many people are very, very, very impatient. It's kind of like watching football these days where everyone just jumps on the gun and gets really, really cynical about it. At the end of the day, we've gone up an awful lot. It's still a very, very good price. Yes, I know retail hasn't really arrived to the party yet, but there's still a lot of bidding from institutions. There's still like Metaplanet and stuff buying Bitcoin and stuff. But for me, this is looking a lot better than what it was the other day on the 25th of September. Yes, September has been a bit wishy-washy, but not alien to what we're expecting. It's actually been performing as we would expect, whether it a little bit down or a little bit green. We ended up green, up 5.16%, which is fine. I'm not worried at all. What my biggest worry is, and we do need to talk about it, and we will talk about the rotation and other elements to it, what happens in October, what happens in November. It has to deliver. It has to deliver similar sort of results as last year. I'd be very, very happy with for obvious reasons, but ultimately the averages are very, very strong for October. And I know if you're in the comments, please do leave a comment what your opinion is, but I hate the feeling of this situation where we are bidding for an October to do well. More often than not, it is green. More often than not, they are actually pretty big numbers as well. Even in, periods of absolute chaos, it has been pretty strong. So I don't like being set up for failure in terms of what if October is red, because that could be brutal, but I don't think it will be. If you want some extra content, live streams and Discord and stuff, jump in. Not to give you FOMO, but if we do go a bit mental and retail comes back, this will be closed. Just saying. I can't have too many people in here. It'll drive me up the wall. Let's look at Ethereum, because Ethereum is very interesting. Now, this is my level of interest that I was looking at. Now, on my Patreon video yesterday, I talked about the bearish scenarios, which is what you've got on the screen, the 3 levels below. And my thought process is October can be a bit wishy-washy in terms of the starting period. And if you look back in time, it isn't just full-on green all the way. There's always some sort of like little wobble. And that's just how it is. And we've had that before in previous cycles. And when we talk about previous bear markets and bull markets, it's always a snap to one side that will give you liquidity, and then we set to shoot, right? Now, That overall opinion's very, very interesting, I know, sorry. But what I'm saying is, we've hit a level, we've bounced off it. That's fine. But I wouldn't disregard these levels lower, because if Bitcoin does decide to go to that $102,000 level, you're probably going to start seeing opportunities in altcoins, especially this level and potentially this level here, which is in level structure points, which is fine. But that does worry people when that does happen for obvious reasons. The same with Solana. Solana's had a little bit of a pull to the upside. We've went onto the EMA again and held onto it. Are we going to go back up to these top levels? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? We shall see. Just be mindful, because we're getting into the rotation signal potential. Today, everything's looking green. Everything at the minute in terms of my watch list is outperforming Bitcoin, if you can see below my head here. Now that's good, but that could also be short-lived currently, because we have went and corrected up to the upside on the dominance. And yes, it could go up to these big juicy 60% levels, which is what a couple of content creators are talking about, but it may not. It may actually hit here, the EMA 21 on structure point with the Fibonacci sequence, and we just rotate. All of a sudden, what's happened is Ethereum's bottomed, other altcoins have bottomed, and we just flip back up and we start rotating back downwards, which is good. For obvious reasons, altcoins will get a bit more relief, which is great. It may bring more people to the market. And then when you tie it all together with the stable currency dominance, this has also hit a big juicy level. And are we going to rotate down? Oh, I freaking hope so, because that would be good. But the reality with this is where we've got to be a bit more careful. Obviously, oopsie. With the reality of stable currencies and obviously the printing of it and where is it going to go, if money has been sidelined for a while, we've still got 6.44% of stable currencies, roughly, give or take, based on my numbers here, in the market that are sitting around. That could get rotated in. We need this to go much lower. Much, much lower, right? If this is like, as I say, going into this profit zone down here, into the sub 3% or 2%, you should be yeeting your bags and getting out the fucking place, because it will probably mean it's gone up significantly. So keep an eye on that one. But as you know, if you've watched a lot of my content, and you should be subscribed and liking and all kinds of good stuff, we are still at a point where altcoins have not moved yet, so do not worry. But in terms of my playbook, we'll come on to it in a minute, we do need to talk about the obvious in the room. When do they move? Well, let's look at one scenario. Gold. Now, gold is flying, right? That's fine. I'm not going to be drawn into any kind of wishy-washy behavior here or some nastiness, but gold's been doing really well, right? My opinion is we're going to stop at some point around this 4,200 level, which is a Fibonacci 3.618. Now, that is the only bit of TA I can do on this, because that's a Fibonacci sequence from the past, and it's a fucking biggie. And my question is, what happens on an 11-month streak to the upside on gold? Where does that money go? Where do you think? Maybe Bitcoin? Probably. Potentially. Good answer. But you've also got to think, the other scenario here is the S&P has been flying, right? Bear with me. Now, that's the NASDAQ, just to give you a bit of, whatever. And obviously the S&P, and you could talk about the Dow Jones as well. We're all at highs apart from Bitcoin. But the question is, and as I say, I'm open for speculation here, but what if that money does rotate into Bitcoin? Oh, Jesus Christ. That's the situation we find ourselves in, where money rotates, and the cross-market situation is, well, everything's bullish, very bullish, and Bitcoin is bullish, but not bullish enough. If liquidity flies into that market, and then we get the rotation into altcoins, hello, and then we're going to get retail, hiya, you get the idea, right? So we've got to be very, very mindful of that. But that's when the fear will come. That's when the greed will come. That's when the FOMO will happen. That's when people start getting silly and complacency happens. And then we get a blow off. So, boys and girls, what in the buggery am I doing? Well, same as normal. I'm sorry. I still have my exits much higher, all the way up there somewhere, give or take, around them levels. And you all know them, they're kind of obvious, but obviously I'm not going to go and yeet my entire bag. The reality is here, we are still looking okay. And yes, we could have wobbles and it could still stay in this range. And I fully, openly admit that could happen. If that does happen, altcoins will get lower, there may well be an opportunity. But for me, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's XRP, Solana, whatever it may be you're holding, be mindful of what Bitcoin does, because if Bitcoin really expands and runs, roll with it. But what we need after that is obviously the rotation. That rotation of the altcoin buckets need to fucking get filled. Because if the top elements of the top market cap coins and stuff like that don't do what we want it to do, we're going to have very, very serious problems, because we could actually have a bull market finish without an altcoin euphoria. That could be horrible. But I'm just saying that the fact that even if Bitcoin, say, runs to 150, 200K, we still need that rotation to happen. We still need that situation to happen, because with Ethereum being a bit soft and mushy, and it has failed to get above its all-time high, that is a big problem until that is rectified, obviously. Likewise, we've got some altcoins that have done really well at certain points, and sometimes they don't do very well. The leaders will have to rotate. So I'm still heavy in Bitcoin. I still have all the stuff that I've got. I still do a dollar cost average challenge on Patreon, which you should be jumping in on, because at the end of the day, if the rotation does happen, they'll all do well. They'll all do fine, and it'll grow a nice little portfolio. Then we will manage it from the upside back down into the lows. We'll buy into it again, and we'll get a bigger pot, and we'll rotate again and have a bit of fun with it. But at the end of the day, not everyone does that. Most people in this market quit before it gets good. There probably a lot of people quit. You can see by the views, you can see by the like count, you can see by comment count. Even though I'm focused on a bigger pool of content with Bitcoin and stuff like that, my second channel in the UK personal finance industry is doing much, much better than this channel. It's mad. It's only got 1,700 subscribers. It's crazy, right? People are fatigued, and I get it. But I'm sticking to the plan. I'm sticking to the course, because at the end of the day, it's worth every single time. I'm not budging from it. But when we do talk about rotation and stuff like that, we need to just keep an eye on certain things like the Google searches and random shits like that, because at the end of the day, not a lot's happening. It's just the way it is. The sad reality is everything's just dropping off until it doesn't. And that's when it gets very tasty, because an illiquid market or an illiquid coin that gets a bit of sunlight will pop off, and then people will get very excited. So yes, for me, we're all right. We do need to prove where we run. If we break up, it's going to get very, very interesting. But just keep an eye out for the laggards. Keep an eye out for the obvious altcoins, because they will do something. They always do. And we've had that in the last 2 years. 2023 to 2024, we had an AI boom, and it took off a little bit. It was quite nice. It was probably, for a lot of people, very, very good. We had it last year with the inauguration, a little bit the run, into then obviously a downward spiral in terms of tariffs. But ultimately, certain obvious coins, the dino coins, moved. That is a situation we find ourselves in. We've got to allow Bitcoin to run, Ethereum, your dino coins, and all that kind of good stuff. And then where do we go from there? The rotation is going to be very, very key. But there we go. There's a link below to Blowfin if you're interested in trading or opening an account. By the way, they'll be closing off as well. You can actually open an account in the UK for futures trading, which is awesome there. And yeah, if you're not yet done so, please do subscribe and watch this video here. It'll help you out.